The city skyline glowed with the quiet brilliance of ambition. Sleek glass towers rose into the night, standing like silent guardians of influence. In the highest of these towers, a woman occupied a penthouse office, her presence as striking as the empire she commanded. Known for her sharp intellect, flawless execution in every deal, and uncanny ability to read people, she carried a reputation that few dared to challenge. But tonight, her confidence had taken on a new shape. Across from her sat an opponent she had never expected. Between them rested a chessboard, its pieces ready for battle. In the window's faint reflection, the hum of the city seemed to hold its breath. "Beat me in chess, and I'll marry you," she had said, her voice carrying both challenge and an unspoken note of longing. It was more than a game. It was something deeper, something neither could yet name. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected encounters to change lives, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who enjoys heartfelt stories, and subscribe to Kindness Corner so you never miss a tale that might inspire you. He wasn't the kind of man who usually sat across from CEOs in offices overlooking the skyline. A single father, his life revolved around his young daughter and the modest cleaning job that kept them afloat. His hands were calloused from years of labor, his clothes plain, his manner unassuming. Yet his eyes reflected a quiet strength, an understanding shaped not by books or boardrooms, but by the hard lessons of survival. The invitation had surprised him. It began with something small: a spilled coffee in the hallway, a polite apology, and a brief exchange that led to him repairing a jammed window in her office. That night, she noticed something unusual in him: a steady calm, a patience that caught her attention. Then she saw the small travel chest set tucked into his backpack, a memento from a past he rarely spoke of. That was when she decided to test him. For her, the challenge was part amusement, part curiosity. She was a woman who had achieved everything, yet often felt the emptiness of victories that came too easily. For him, the challenge meant more. It wasn't truly about marriage, it was about dignity, about proving that someone from humble beginnings could stand on equal ground with those at the top. As they sat across from each other, the room seemed to fade until there was only the soft click of chess pieces and the steady rhythm of their hearts. For him, every move on the board carried memories. Nights he went without food so his daughter could eat. Long walks in the rain when bus fare was out of reach. Moments when he set aside his pride just to keep a roof over their heads. She couldn't fully imagine that struggle, yet she began to sense it in the way he played. Not with arrogance, but with a kind of raw, unshakable determination. Every piece he moved seemed to carry the weight of the life he had lived. She too had her burdens, though hers were hidden behind luxury and power. Years of loneliness masked by corporate success, a string of failed relationships built on convenience rather than connection, and a heart that was far more fragile than anyone suspected. Perhaps that was why she made the challenge. Perhaps she wanted to see if someone could surprise her. Someone who didn't approach her with fear or flattery, but with honesty and skill. As the game progressed, her smirk began to fade. Not because she was losing, but because she was beginning to see him in a way she hadn't seen anyone in years. The city outside sparkled like a dream, but inside that room, the tension grew heavier with every move. Pawns advanced with purpose. Knights leapt with precision. Bishops cut across the board like silent blades. He was patient, not rushing, not intimidated. And then, in a moment so swift she barely saw it coming, he cornered her king. 3 moves. That was all it took. 3 brilliant, calculated moves that ended the game. Her eyes widened, not in humiliation, but in something closer to awe. No one had ever defeated her so quickly, so decisively, and certainly not someone she had underestimated. For a long moment, there was silence. Then, instead of anger, a A quiet smile touched her lips. She realized this wasn't about the game anymore. It was about the truth she had seen in him. The resilience, the strength, the refusal to be defined by circumstance. She had offered the challenge as a joke, a test, maybe even a trap. But what she found instead was respect, and perhaps something deeper. In the days that followed, she found reasons to call him back. Not for another game, but for conversations that lingered long after the office lights dimmed. She asked about his life, about his daughter, about the kind of courage it took to start over every day despite the odds. He never boasted, never asked for anything. And that humility began to break through walls she had built around her own heart. What started as a challenge became a connection, and what began as a chess game became something much more profound. Weeks turned into months. Slowly, her guarded life began to shift. She found herself looking forward to his visits, to the moments of honesty in a world full of masks. And he, though cautious, began to see her not as the CEO but as a woman searching for meaning beyond boardrooms and balance sheets. It was in the quiet moments, the way she listened when he spoke about his daughter, the way he noticed when she was exhausted and brought her coffee without asking, that something real began to grow. But not everyone understood. Her friends questioned her. Her board doubted her judgment. People whispered that a CEO had no business involving herself with a man who cleaned floors for a living. The pressure mounted. The scrutiny became intense. And she began to wonder if she had been foolish to let him into her world. And yet, every time she looked at him, she saw the same unwavering strength she had seen that night on the chessboard. He had nothing to offer her in terms of wealth or status, but he had everything she truly needed: loyalty, honesty, and the kind of love that couldn't be bought. The final turning point came one stormy evening when her company faced a crisis that threatened everything she had built. As partners pulled away and advisors lost faith, he was the one who stood beside her, reminding her that she was more than her failures, that her worth wasn't defined by public opinion. In that moment, she realized that the game they had played months ago had been more than a game. It had been a glimpse into the kind of partnership she wanted for the rest of her life. Not a partnership built on deals, but on trust. By the time the crisis passed, she had made her decision. The challenge she had once given as a joke had become a promise she wanted to keep. Not because he had beaten her in 3 moves, but because he had stood by her in ways no one else had. Their lives didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still challenges, still people who doubted them, but they had something rare: a connection that defied expectation and a love that had grown in the unlikeliest of places. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more true-to-life stories that remind us all of the power of resilience and love. Before we end, we have a special request for you. Comment below and tell us what's the most unexpected act of kindness you've ever witnessed. Your story might inspire someone who needs it right now.